All right. Good evening, everyone. I welcome all of you to ICANN third edition of this conversations. And ICANN, as all of you know, that is India COVID Action Network, is an initiative to help the communities who are hard hit by COVID-19. And this online platform is trying to help and bring together the help seekers and help givers. That's the basic premise of work. While we are dealing with very basic challenges of the human beings of food, shelter, medicines, all of us know that we are soon going to be hit by a bigger challenge of economic recession and economic issues that all of us are eventually going to face. So the innovation in whatever we are doing is the only key to survive further. We need to discuss what is coming up for all of us once we win over the current situation. Unless we find newer ways, unless we find better ways of carrying out our work, we are not going to survive well. So to help us in this journey of how to deal with challenges and what are the kind of possible innovation that are going to help us, we have an eminent speaker with us, Mr. Ramanathan. So Mr. R Ramanathan is the Mission Director of Atal Innovation Mission, that is AIM. It's a flagship national innovation initiative under NITI Aayog. He's an instrumental man behind the launch and execution of several nationwide innovation and entrepreneurship initiatives. He has managed establishing more than 10,000 Atal Tinkering Labs and over 2 million students having access to innovation tools. So he's one of the perfect person for all of us to guide through to face the challenges and what is really coming up, because as a common man, as a layman, we do not understand what's lying ahead of this time. So welcome, sir, to this conversation. And I would request you to, please give the opening remarks and let us know what is really lying ahead of us and how are we going to face different challenges after this current situation, gets little normalized.
Thank you, Aparna, and good afternoon to everybody who is on the call. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be part of this, I think, very important call for all of us. What each of us are going to do, not only for the crisis that is facing us right now, but also beyond. So as all of you are aware, we are a country of 1.3 billion people. So we are not a small country. And in fact, I saw recently a map of India showing 32 different countries fitting into India. So we are actually managing a crisis of epic proportions, the COVID-19 crisis that all of you are aware of. And I do hope everyone who is on this call are safe and following all the safeguards that are required to be practiced during this crisis. But more importantly, I think the topic is very relevant today. The topic is about innovation and entrepreneurship. What are the challenges that we face as a country during this crisis? What are some of the challenges we are going to face beyond this crisis once the crisis comes to a logical and quick end, hopefully? And what are the challenges as a country that we face anyway? So irrespective of whether there is a coronavirus crisis or not, we do have a very great requirement for innovation and entrepreneurship and establishing an innovation ecosystem in our country. And that is why the Atal Innovation Mission, which I am a part of and I'm the mission director, was set up by the Prime Minister himself just about 4 years ago. So how to create and drive and promote an ecosystem of innovation and entrepreneurship that's going to help our 1.3 billion people to a better future. And a crisis like this actually brings out the fact how important innovation becomes in such a circumstance. Like I mentioned, we have 1.3 billion people, but we also have a great advantage, which is not the advantage of many countries, and that is a demographic dividend. We are a very young country. We have 65% of our country under 35 years old. And we have 1.4 million schools in our country. We have 10,500 engineering and related institutions. We have 39,000 colleges. We have over 10,000 business schools. And we have 150 million young students who are going to be entering into the workplace in the next 5 to 6 years. Now, this means this is not only a great challenge for us because these 150 million people are going to drive the future of 1.3 billion people of our country. But it's also a great opportunity, an opportunity because of two other reasons. One other reason is that we are also a fast growing economy. And while the crisis may have temporarily put a dampener on the growth of our economy, we have still been one of the fastest growing economies of the world. And the third important point is we are in an era where technology is virtually rechanging the shape of the world. It is allowing us to reimagine a different world because of digital connectivity, because of 3D printing, which is able to enable MSME companies to manufacture, design, develop right in front of their eyes instead of having to invest in large manufacturing equipment. We're having robotics, which is changing the degree of automation and productivity that is possible in our companies, in our industries. We are having Internet of Things, which is getting integrated into every aspect of our being. And actually, you're finding a huge number of those applications now in the COVID-19 crisis. IoT is being used for contactless IoT based, even doorbells. Some of the schools in our Atal Tinkering Labs have designed a doorbell where you don't have to ring it, you don't have to press it. You can use IoT technology and be able to sense a person coming, and then it automatically rings and gives a beep inside the house and things like that. So you have technologies which are affordable, advanced, and available. This is the era in which we are living in. So there is a great opportunity to fuse these three things together: the demographic dividend, the fast-growing economy, as well as the advent of affordable, advanced, and available technology, to be able to bring innovation and entrepreneurship to a completely different level than what we have been used to. And that is why we have launched 5 major initiatives. Just to very quickly let all of you know who are on this call. First, at the school level, we are creating a problem-solving, innovative mindset in our school students. Too long our school students have been used to doing rote learning, get good marks, get into a good university, get good marks, get into a good college abroad, and then get good marks again and join a company as a job seeker. It may be a Google, an IBM, TCS, or a Wipro, and so on. But we have not converted our tremendous intellectual capability that this country has always possessed into innovation, problem solving, and innovative thinking. And so at the school level, we have launched thousands of tinkering labs, which enables children from grade 6 to grade 12 to be able to innovate using an Atal Tinkering Lab. An Atal Tinkering Lab would have 3D printing, robotics, IoT, miniaturized electronics, augmented virtual reality, do-it-yourself kits to be able to solve problems in and around the community they look at. So the children automatically imbibe an ability to translate their knowledge which they are gaining in the classroom to an application of a solution and innovation which they themselves create using the technology that are available in Tinkering Lab. And we have now established, as she said, 14,000 schools have been selected across the country for setting up Tinkering Labs. 5,000 are fully operational, and the remaining 5,000 are going to be operational during the course of this year. The second innovation initiative that we have set up across the country is setting up world-class incubators. And I'm very happy that Rambao is one of the incubators that have been selected out of thousands of applications. Now, the purpose of an incubator is precisely this: to create startups who will innovate for the benefit of our country, for the benefit of the social society of the country, as well as for the economy of the country. And we have now launched 102 incubators across the country, out of which 70 of them are operational. More than 1,500 startups have come into existence because of this. And they're all addressing problems in different sectors of our country: in agri-tech, in biotech, in healthcare, in smart housing, in affordable housing, in improving the farm productivity, in being able to do e-commerce from the remotest locations of the country, and so on. And these startups are required because India needs thousands of job creators. And these job creators need to be facilitated in their startup ventures. And they have to be encouraged and they have to be supported. So the government is giving up to 10 crores of grant to each of these to be able to set up startups. And every incubator would set up 20 to 25 startups in the specific area which will service not only the nation, but the communities in which they are located. The third initiative we have launched is called Atal New India Challenges. And these New India Challenges are to be able to create product innovations relevant to our country. So these are societally benefiting products, or they are commercially deployable products. And we want to make sure that many entrepreneurs will start areas and will be able to address these challenges These challenges are arrived at in joining hands with the government as well as with the industry. We identify the challenges, we launch the challenges, and those who have innovations. And today you have 30,000 startups in our country. So they are all producing innovations, and these innovations can be aligned to the needs of our country, whether it is a social need or whether it is an economic need. And we have launched 24 challenges so far. 52 winners have been selected, and they are being given a grant of 1 crore by the government in order to convert it from a commercial, just a prototype of an innovation to a commercially deployable product. The fourth initiative is what is known as Athal Community Innovation Centers. Now, this is very important when we look at what we are going to do beyond the crisis, beyond the COVID-19 crisis. How are we going to resurrect our communities? How do we ensure that those communities, which are, we are a country with 600,000 plus villages. We have 715 districts. And we have 115 of them which have been identified as aspirational districts in our country. How do we ensure that the benefit of innovation and entrepreneurship reaches the remotest village in our country? So towards this end, we want to ensure that there are community innovation centers, hubs, which are created in different parts of the country, which will serve the needs of the local community. So the community where you are staying in, a district which is not in a tier 1 district. There are only 8 tier 1 districts in our country. And most of our startups really try to come and cluster in the tier 1 cities. Whereas you have the remaining are tier 2, tier 3 and rural districts and coastal and hilly districts. So we want innovation, grassroots innovation to be developed close to the communities where it is relevant and also to be implemented. And we also want the benefit of innovation which is created in some other community. Maybe in Maharashtra, in one particular district, in the agri area, you're creating one particular innovation. How do you take this and replicate it in the Northeast? How do you replicate it in Jammu and Kashmir? Or something which has been done in Jammu Kashmir, how do you replicate it in some other part of the country? And these community innovation centers will help in that. And finally, in order to support the MSME industry, which is very crucial, 70% of our country is the heart of the country is MSME business, small businesses, kirana stores, SME organizations which support the larger industries and so on. Now, they're all badly affected by what has happened because of the COVID-19 crisis. There is lockdown. They don't have enough substantial financial capabilities to be able to withstand a long lockdown. And so we have to be able to see how to support them and how to resurrect them and how to stimulate innovation in them so that they can start creating products and they can start supporting the larger industry. And so we are launching an initiative called Arise, Applied Research and Innovation for Small Enterprises. And the word Arise is also very reflective of what we want to do. We want the MSME industry to arise from all of this and be a very powerful force within the country for growth of the economy and for growth of the society. Now, with all of this, there are two important challenges facing us. One is the immediate challenge of COVID-19. We want preventive, assistive, or curative solutions which can be deployed within the next 3 to 6 months to be quickly identified from our startup community. And all of you who are involved in either identifying such a solution or creating such a solution, we have created a special group called COVID-19 Task Force. And that task force, which AIM is coordinating along with many other ministries, AIM is Athal Innovation Mission is coordinating this with the Department of Biotechnology, Department of Science and Technology, Startup India, Invest India. We're also coordinating with NASSCOM and CII so that all solutions which are relevant for this COVID-19 crisis, whether they are preventive solutions, assistive solutions, or creative solutions, or curative solutions. And they could be PPEs, they could be ventilators, they could be masks, they could be related to some vaccine that is being created. And what we are soliciting is that do register all these solutions on our Startup India portal. And we have already had more than 1,500 such solutions which have come through various sources from startups, from our startup community. And this is a fantastic thing to see how our startup community has responded in this crisis with already deployable solutions in a very short period of time. And what we have asked each of these startups, we are shortlisting the best of them so that we can support their deployment and their scaling across the country. And the type of support they may want are different types of support. One is some will need funding support, some will need manufacturing support, some will need access to test labs and testing infrastructure, some will need regulatory support that they don't know how they ensure that this particular licensing or patenting can be done in a very quick manner. Some would require adherence to specifications. Does their product meet manufacturing specifications or the biotech healthcare specifications and so on? So whoever has identified that this is an area of support that we need, we are also, COVID-19 task force is also identifying providers of that support. So the industry has responded marvelously to this. Many of the companies, Thai, for example, has donated 100 crores of financial grant in order to be able to provide financial support to the deserving ones. Similarly, there are a number of manufacturing companies who have come back and said that we can help in scale up and manufacturing. Others have said we'll help in the logistics, supply chain management, which is going to be a great issue. So this is something that is ongoing right now. And any one of you who are in this call, you are familiar with solutions that can make an impact for our country and which can be immediately deployed. Please register on the portal or send a message, send a mail to me, r.ramanan@gov.in, and I'll be happy to take that forward. The second problem, the second bigger challenge that we are going to be faced with is what do we do after the crisis? How are we going to respond to the situation after the crisis? Because a lot of jobs, we are a country which is having a very large migrant population. But here is also the large opportunity that we have. We have always looked upon India has to develop in a uniform manner across the country. All the 715 districts should develop. We have identified 100 smart cities. Those of you who would actually check the website, 100 smart cities have been identified. We have to make sure that all these 100 smart cities and more become hubs of employment, job creation, entrepreneurship, and they are also having the necessary innovations to be able to become a smart city. Now, what makes a smart city? A smart city or a smart village is where you have clean drinking water and sanitation. You are having efficient waste management. You are having great educational capabilities. You are having healthcare support and so on. You are having job creation and MSME industries thriving. You are having the ability to integrate technology, digital connectivity, as well as financing and rural financing capabilities, along with whatever the country has already done in Jan Dhan, that is the JAM Trinity. You have the Jan Dhan accounts, 300 million accounts have been created. You have the mobile revolution, which has been sweeping the country in a very big way. And you have the Aadhaar identity-based solutions, which are enabling you to develop unique applications relevant to your own, whether you're a Kirana store, whether you are a large organization, you're an Amazon or a Oyo or a Uber or an Ola. You are able to leverage all of these in order to develop new innovations and new applications that can create new jobs. So this is what we are trying to do, both at the COVID time and beyond. So with this, I would ask Aparna to open it up for questions, so that we have the opportunities, but we also have challenges which need to be addressed. And as someone said, India is a country with 1 billion people and 1 million challenges. And 1 million challenges viewed in another way are 1 million opportunities. And that is the way we will have to look at this entire thing and see how do we convert these opportunities into solutions, into startups that can kickstart the economy, as well as which can grow this economy at a phenomenal pace. Because any problem that you solve in India, remember that you are solving it for the rest of the world. So with that, Aparna, I hand it over to you for questions and and to be able to share my thoughts on anything else. Hello? 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 Okay, so I'll wait for Aparna to come on the line, but I thought I will also share a little bit on some of the questions that I already have got earlier. One of the questions that has been asked is, how do we overcome the problems of unemployment which will take place after the impact of COVID-19? Yeah, it is going to be a challenge, but I think the government is doing there is going to be a financial package that is being introduced by the government. There is a lot of debate which is going on. Also, as the prime minister said, there is a daily stock of the situation. Some of our districts have been badly affected, and some of our districts are not yet affected. So my assumption is, and I, of course, I'm not speaking on behalf of government, but this is my own personal understanding, is that there will be, after the lockdown, a phased approach to be able to resurrect the workings of the industry, particularly in areas which are,
Yeah.
which are less suspect to it, and so that the economy can be revived in many of these places. Yeah, Aparna.
Sorry, I think there was some issue in the connection. So,
Yeah.
I mean, as you very correctly said, and it is very welcoming thought that support to all the initiatives who are going to be contributing to the economy is very easy now, and they all can connect to you and the initiative that you have started to create an ecosystem for all the startups who will be contributing to the economy. And of course, second point, you said that you have identified these smart cities, and uh, we can see that some good work will be happening and a lot of job opportunities will be created. Um, but as an expert, what do you think that the two most like top challenges after the COVID, aftermath of the COVID lockdown, what are the two major challenges you foresee? I mean, other than unemployment or economic crisis, what are the biggest challenges that you're foreseeing?
I think the immediate challenge after the lockdown is over is, how do you still ensure that you are introducing people back to work and people back to activity without having the danger of COVID recurring? So this will be a
Right.
big challenge, and one has to be very careful about it. So it will require a lot of not only support from the regulatory authorities on how we are going to ensure safe transportation system, for example, or how are you going to ensure that essential services continue in a more accelerated manner, but the less essential services are curtailed still until the effects of COVID or the fear of a recurrence of COVID goes away. So this is the second thing. And I think in this, education, awareness, and also certain practices, like, for example, it may become necessary for the next several months for everyone to wear a mask when you're going out, irrespective of how safe you feel, even in the context of working in the office. Second is, wherever it is possible, I am sure you're going to see a lot of encouragement of remote working and digital connectivity being used. Only when you physically have to go somewhere in order to be able to do some piece of work, without which you cannot do it, will the need for travel be occasion. And so you're going to see a different mode of working and different style of working, and people will have to accommodate to that. The third thing is, there is a lot of migrant workers who have left at different points in time, and they would want to come back. How do you streamline that entire resurgence of migrant workers? Or can we, as a country, see how you can create local employment opportunities in a different manner? For example, even during when the crisis is on, online deliveries are going to be required. But then you can support them with delivery services and so on and so forth, which is also required locally in many places. And how do you support that sort of, I would say, decentralized momentum of economy regeneration, rather than a centralized momentum of economy generation? These are some of the challenges that I see, which have solutions, but which will need to be also introduced in a very thoughtful manner.
So in the coming time, people will have to continue to adhere to the innovation that they have already adopted. Most of the people have started to use online modes of transactions, online deliveries, online meetings, so to say. So I think everybody has to consider that this is going to go at least for a few more months, and it's not going to just get over in a month or so. So I think people will have to stick to those modes to continue working.
Correct.
Also looks like education is going to be another area where students are going to take the hit. So there was one question from one of the users. He said, how are we planning to safeguard financially poor kids for coming academic years? Because of course their parents may not be in the position to pay off their fees, and because of the economic slowdown. So education looks like another hit, because not masses can actually be connected online, and the newer ways of connecting with the students.
Yeah,
So
I agree. In fact, online access, even though it is prevalent, one will have to see how we can supplement. Just many people may not have a laptop at home or a desktop at home. So how do we use mobiles more effectively? So mobile apps, mobile self-learning tools, in order to compensate for the time that you are probably not able to attend a classroom or attend physically a school in areas where you still need to have maybe some lockdown in effect. You are going to see, I think personally, a revolution in the education space, because distance education and remote education is not as far away as we thought. It is, in fact, we have introduced during the last 3 weeks, since the COVID-19 crisis started, we started for all the Atal Tinkering Labs, Tinker from Home online modules. And many of them have access to these modules. If they have, most of them do have internet access today. But if you don't have a laptop, we are also facilitating that through the mobile apps that we are developing, so that people can keep still learning. And we have introduced AI Learn It Yourself module, where we introduced game development, learning development modules, and we have introduced digital creativity and skills development modules. Uh, I think, but at the same time, in places where you need physical congregation of classes and so on, the way it will be administered may be slightly different. You'll need to maintain a certain amount of social distancing even within the classroom, and to be able to ensure that everyone is following the necessary safeguards. There will be a lot of focus on hygiene related issues in our classrooms and in the schools. So that will also have to be changed. We are going to see a disruption in all of this, but there are solutions that are being evolved, and there is a whole startup industry which is focusing only on edtech. So I'm sure these edtech startups will come to fore in the next few months.
right, and very correctly, as you said, mindset is something which you people are also working, and that's going to be the key in the education sector as well. A lot of self-driven learning has to happen now. So the good side of it is probably we will have to encourage students to to get into a self-learning mode in a huge way. But definitely the question that I had was the fees. If the school fees are extremely high, and considering that there is a huge impact on the financial status of a lot of families, you think government should be guiding the education institutions to kind of uh, help, send some sort of help, or some concessions, or some sort of relief has to come from educational institutes as
Yeah,
well.
I do think the government is actively looking at where it can and it will help. But I also feel that this has to be a very concerted effort between government, academia, industry. Okay, they have all to come together. It cannot be just this sort of problem. We have, by the way, 3 million plus NGOs in our country. Now, when you have 3 million plus, this is one of the largest set of NGOs anywhere in the world in a particular country. And how do we bring that capability together? And I'm very happy to note that there are 11 empowered committees which have been set up by the government, and it's precisely to address problems of this nature that you're talking about. These empowered committees are looking at different aspects. Some are looking at the educational aspects, some are looking at the agri economy and the MSME industry, some are looking at how international support can be mobilized, how the private sector can mobilize, we can mobilize the support from them. How do we ensure that, for example, the NGOs as well as the institutions like World Bank and UNDP in India who are operating, how they can come together. So there is a whole lot of activity going on in that space. And within the next 2 or 3 weeks, many of these will get crystallized into real action items. And so you're going to see the effect of all of that.
So that's a nice thing to know, because such positive hopes are extremely important at these times, and there are a number of questions in everybody's mind. How are we going to cope up? Also, you spoke about the startups. Like, India has huge number of startups. I think one of the biggest startup industry in India right now. So
Right.
how do you think they will have to bring in innovation to get back to the traction of their own business? Because a lot of people probably were at the stage where their businesses were were seeing surge, and they were really growing fast, and there is suddenly everything has come to an halt. So especially startups, because they are very fragile, they are the most vulnerable people right now. I mean, what is your word of advice to all the startups? How should they keep their morals high, and how should they kind of hold on to the situation and not give up on what they are seeing? Because personally, even I'm seeing people who started, for example, some really innovative ideas. uh, they are going through a very low morals right now, because
Yeah.
how are they going to
No,
cope up?
it's a very, very important question. And first and foremost, I want to say that the future of India is completely dependent on startups and innovation. India as a country, if it has to go forward, we need to ensure innovation, entrepreneurship, and startups succeed, because that is the only way this country is going to develop. It is large, it is complex. We have thousands of challenges, like I said, but these thousands of challenges are thousands of opportunities. And today, India has fortunately young workforce, very intelligent workforce, people who are having the benefit of good education and good universities and so on. If they don't take up this challenge, then it will be an opportunity lost. So we should not have any of the startups get discouraged by the current situation. But there is also a saying, necessity is the mother of invention, right? And so the startups have to see at this point in time, what is, if for example, they were looking at certain solutions which were having a potential impact maybe a few years later, where the situation would have been ideal. Conditions had not changed. Our economy is continuing to grow at 6.5% to 7%. The world is operating very well. That is a different scenario. Today is a different scenario where the global economy is going to get affected. Countries are going to become increasingly focused on themselves. How do they recover their economy? And so also should India look at that. And so I would say all the startups should relook at what they are doing and see what element or what component of their solution can be immediately applied in the current situation or in the post recovery situation. And they should start focusing on solutions that I talked about. For example, if you have solutions for contact tracing, it need not be a solution that has to be deployed tomorrow, but such an epidemic can happen later on. Such an epidemic or a pandemic can strike, a new pandemic may strike. How can we get better prepared? How can we create solutions for that? And how can we now rope in our healthcare systems to be much more effective? How do we ensure telemedicine, for example? That is a great area for startups to focus on. How do we ensure better supply chain management? That is a great area for them to focus on, because supply chain management gets affected. Now, this sort of situation was never envisaged by anybody. And so it is the mother of all stressful situations. They say, when you have stress tests, whenever you create a product, how do you subject it to a stress test? This is the stress test. So now you know what a stress test looks like. How do you create solutions which will be able to address such a stressful situation? So there is an opportunity for startup. Now the government of India is also doing a whole lot. In fact, you should follow Startup India, Invest India, where a number of tax benefits are being given The banks are being encouraged to, from a loan perspective, to be relaxing some of their conditions. Also, GST and so on. There is a deliberation going on how that can be, one can help. So, and then there is also how some of the existing loans which have been given, how you can give some extended time for repayment and so on. So all of these things are happening. But I think it is also up to the startups to see how to do more with less. And that becomes a key, so that you have to be innovative. That's where your innovation comes in. How can you encourage, for example, not lose your manpower, but make them operate, with the optimum manpower that you require, and at the same time facilitate them to work from home, so on and so forth. And how do you leverage some of the advantages that their current product may have? They may have an AI component in that, they may have IoT component in that, but which could be applied to another innovation relevant to the current situation. So that is something that everybody should look at.
So also, sir, it's a very tricky situation wherein we will have to adopt a lot of technology solutions, as well as retain the requirement of manpower. I mean, automation versus the requirement of human efforts.
Yeah.
So in a lot of cases, it might happen that the job that a human being or an individual was doing will be replaced by technology. I mean, that has been anyway happening. But I think there is a stark need of creating enough work for individuals, so that, I mean, we are also using the technology, but not taking away the jobs of individuals, because that's the biggest threat that small organization or MSMEs or startups are facing. And it's a huge scare right now that of losing jobs, unemployment, because people say, oh, I don't need it anymore, because I will rather have technology doing your job. So it's a very tricky situation.
Yeah, see, this is often debated, but my view is quite simple in this. Okay, technology is going to advance no matter what. You won't be able to stop the advancement of technology. However, technology allows you to redefine jobs, develop new skills, and you are able to apply those skills in a new manner. So for example, artificial intelligence. If you look at artificial intelligence, one would think that artificial intelligence means human intelligence is no longer required. In fact, human intelligence will be required even more if you want to apply artificial intelligence in agriculture, precision agriculture. That requires a different thinking. So you will actually have many agriculturists, you will have data economists who will come up, and because all of this is based on data, how do you process the data? So you'll have to acquire some new skills. Also, it will create new jobs. Take, for example, Ola got introduced, you got drivers who started leveraging technology better, and so it has created more opportunities in the driving segment than ever before. And so you are going to have a service economy which will get generated because of the technology advancement and technology solutions. So you will have, take for example, the Oyo hotels. Now every place in a district, a remote district, has the opportunity to set up an Oyo room and thereby create a service opportunity for tourists who are coming to that particular area and so on. So you are going to have multiple different opportunities, service-oriented opportunities emanating because of technology implementation and technology production. Secondly, we are very fortunate that India is a 1.3 billion country. So our needs are huge, and our current industry is not catering to its own needs. So if we use technology for being able to scale up manufacturing, scale up, like take for example, this mask which we require. We still don't have enough masks, we don't have enough testing equipment in our country, and so on. And we are still reliant on imports. How do we ensure that this opportunity that we see gets converted into local manufacturing, and therefore it will require more people? Of course, the people have to be trained in newer technologies to use them. Your more robotic driven automations may happen, but how do you use them? How do you repair them? How do you service them? How do you ensure that they are working? How do you ensure that they are deployed at different places? These are all also great opportunities. So with the advent of, let us say, the Kirana shop, by leveraging technology, they can extend their reach from the local community they are servicing to a much larger community, right? And a network of Kiranas can also learn how to work with each other in order to cater to maybe a smart city in their neighborhood. So I think there are opportunities, and this is what the startup should think about and should try to exploit.
So I think a wonderful thought. There is need of co-working with with your own parallel probably communities is important now. And in fact, instead of competing with each other, we should stand by each other and actually innovate and put these forces together. Is what is the need of the hour right now.
Exactly.
Somewhere the blessing in disguise right now probably is we are forced to innovate.
Yeah.
We have always seen there is a kind of lethargy in the innovation sector, because it probably is right from the education system that we have grown with. That's the reason why rightly you're working on the mindsets. We have very few mindsets who think of innovation unless there is a huge need, unless we are going to die without innovation. That's where we are standing right now. And that's where the community lies. I mean, no doubt that India has finest IQ levels, and India has great potential to think through worst of the situation. And we are standing really way better than a lot of other countries in the world, and we are standing by this critical situation also. But unless we are forced to innovate, we don't do that, is the general scenario that we have seen. So I think this is one of the opportunity where even in agriculture, for example, a lot of innovation can happen. And people who are working in the field of agriculture, working for farmers, they should, I think, gear up really hard now, and they should reach out to all of them, because they are the ultimate resource of for all of us. So what do you
So
what do you kind of
one important point that you mentioned, Aparna, is that this particular crisis, even though horrific it is bringing people together, and it is bringing industry also very, industry has suddenly realized the need for innovation. The large industry, the large corporates have realized, and they've also realized the wealth of innovative capability that is there in our startups. So I think this is going to actually give a great boost to our startup movement than ever before, because the importance of startups, the importance of innovation, the importance of entrepreneurship is coming out very strongly and starkly to everybody. And now the industry is also working together, so their awareness of this potential is high. So I'm sure they are going to be supporting innovation in a very big way, which is also going to be a plus point from all of this.
right? So because I want you to really encourage two segments of people. One is, of course, the startup, and they are doing their best, and they probably have to start like this, that they should note down what are the biggest challenges, and they should navigate their solution to cater to the biggest challenges. I think that would be the key. The moment you orient your solution to the current problems, they are immediately going to be one of the most flourishing startups, so to say. Also, now, I mean, we are talking here about startups and industries, but also for people who are in employments,
Yeah.
people who are working in companies, Indian companies especially. There lies a huge responsibility of every individual at every level. I mean, till now, the responsibility of planning and creating new businesses was of only particular team of in a particular company. But now I think it lies with every individual at every level, from top management to the bottommost person, to kind of contribute and give their maximum so that their own companies also flourish. It's I mean, this situation is also affecting you.
I totally agree with that. In fact, I forgot to mention to you, we have, the common citizen like you and me have to see what is our role going to be in the mitigation of this crisis. This is a personal responsibility that everybody has. They have to take it seriously. They cannot be sitting down and saying, I hope the solution goes away and somebody else is going to solve the problem. No, we have to be part of the solution. We cannot be just expecting that someone is going to solve the problem. So everyone can contribute in their own way. Some can contribute financially, but I think the bigger contribution would be how you can join a community network of providers of some service where your competency can be leveraged maximum. And you could be an engineer, so you could have an engineering competency you bring. You could be a carpenter, you could be a plumber, or you could be an IT specialist. It doesn't matter. Every one of us have some unique competencies which we are trained on, which we have gathered over the years. How do we leverage that competency for the benefit of innovation or for the benefit of giving back to the society in some manner, right? Some resurrection of the society. Take, for example, slum rehabilitation. All of us can play a role. Design engineers can play a role. The construction engineers, civil engineers can play a role. Food distribution chains can play a role. Everyone has a role to play in preventing such a cluster of potentially afflicted people in a crisis like this. So there has to be some rethinking. The second is we have created, for all the Atal Innovation Mission, we have created a Mentors of Change network across the country, a national network. I was pleasantly surprised when we launched this portal, soliciting mentors for tinkering labs at the school level or mentorship for the startups and so on. More than 10,000 people have registered on this network. And we have allocated 5,000 of them to various schools so that they are actually interacting with the students, encouraging them into problem solving, innovative thinking. Many of them are coming up with helping students in the innovation for the tinkering challenges. Many of them are associated, more than 1,000 mentors are associated with our startup community. So here again, you have a chance of being part of the education value chain. I mean, you mentioned about how can education be addressed under these circumstances. This is a way where people can give back. They can form groups which can help adopt a particular school, the school nearest to their community, and offer services related to education in various areas, support and so on and so forth. Mentorship, which is very key, because with great mentors, great students, capability is possible, innovation is possible. So I think society has to take a deep breath, reflective breath on this, and see how each one of us becomes part of solving the problem rather than just complaining about it.
Yeah, that's very important, because at the end of entire conversation and seeing so many things around on media and news and everything, one has a question that what I can individually do. That's where it boils down to at the end of the day. And
that is where the community innovation centers I talked about makes so much sense. Because if every community within our country starts addressing the local problems, we'll suddenly have so many solutions which can be replicated and scaled up. And that itself will give birth to different jobs and different service capabilities.
Yeah, so I think jobs at a local level, creating jobs at a local level is also one of the key factors right now. And, once you adopt innovation, once you adopt the new way of life, the first and foremost, responsibility of startups is not to cut down on the jobs, but create more. I think if one works with that mindset, creating opportunities for community is a key to every entrepreneur, and everybody should actually think in that way, that how I can create a wage. Even if you are in FMCG, you are in entertainment, you are in agriculture, you are in, say, any of the industries, I think your first and foremost responsibility as an entrepreneur should be to create solutions and to create job opportunities for whoever is seeking. I mean, interestingly, there are a lot of industries though, and interestingly, nobody talks about entertainment industry right now, because that's something which is which all of us feel okay when we are happy and when we are in a state of mind, only then we take care of this industry. But I think entertainment industry also has a huge turnover, and it can really help in this particular situation. And right, so I mean, any comments on that, sir? I mean,
no, I think actually this is an industry which has not done full justice to our capabilities. Okay, because today digital technology is big time used in the entertainment industry everywhere across the world. Animation is an important aspect. How do we ensure also education through entertainment? I mean, and the tinkering labs is actually entertaining education, right? It's not and not the classical movie entertainment, but how do we make education fun? And if you want to make education fun, a spirit of fun to be introduced in education, um, entertainment industry can play a big role in. And some of our movies have been very educative in terms of women empowerment, in terms of sanitation and hygiene and health and so on. So there have been good movies which have been created. I think entertainment industry can definitely play a big role. And secondly, I was seeing, in fact, some of the very, very enterprising people who have created great videos sitting down at home, and who have created educational videos sitting down at home. And what they've done is they've actually, it's not just their own, they've been able to use collaboration tools. Today, all these, like Zoom is a great example, but you bring collaboration tools and you create an interactive video with multiple players in it. Some of the young students are creating stories and games through collaborative tools. So entertainment industry, in using digital technology, in using animation, and in using tools like Adobe and so on and so forth, they can, there's a lot that can be done on that.
Also, as you know, COVID Action Network is essentially a platform to bring people together,
Yes,
and
yes.
bring ideas together, because connecting dot is the most important thing. In isolation, there are so many good resources, there are so many needs are lying around. So connecting all of them is an important task, and that's what ICANN is essentially doing. So
I like
any
the word "I
advice?
can." It's very good, and
Yes.
everybody should feel that I can, and then it will become yes, we can.
Yes, and I think we underestimate ourselves, and we feel we are a very basic individual and hardly can contribute to the country, but that's not the case.
Yeah.
Every single effort is what counts, and that's the reason why this entire initiative is called as I Can, where everybody feels empowered and everybody takes responsibility of whatever little they can. So any suggestion on the part of technology and that we are using? We're using a platform right now, and how you think we can better our efforts? Any advice to the COVID team, sir, from you?
Yeah, no, I think, first of all, I want to compliment all of you for doing a great job of initiating this. It is movements like this and it is groups like this which come together and which can scale up to become a big movement. And we want it to become a big movement. And that big movement happens only through communication, it happens through education and awareness building, and it happens through giving opportunities for action. So it should be, it's both enabling thought leadership as well as it is enabling grassroots implementation of the ideas. And so I think I want to actually compliment you on this. I do think, technology, I'm myself a technology person, been part of TCS since 1981. And then, of course, I moved into the government just a couple of years ago to head this mission. But technology has virtually changed our entire lives today, right? I mean, can you think about it? A few when I had entered college, we didn't have a phone at home, and my father and my parents had to go to a neighbor's house in order to ring me up when I was studying in IIT. And when I went abroad, also it was the same. And suddenly now everybody is having multiple mobile phones and so on. You have mobile technology, you have communications technology, you have distance online learning, skill portals are available, ability for groups to congregate and deliberate like this, like on a call, collaboration tools are available. So I think technology is going to play a huge role, and everyone should, they need not become a technology expert, but they should know how to use technology. And today I'm sure most of our grandfathers and grandmothers who are at home are today using our own WhatsApp group, and they're communicating with each other, which otherwise they would be sitting down in the room and just watching some TV program. But now it's difficult to get them out from their mobiles. So that's the sort of world we are living in. And how do we leverage this technology very effectively for the benefit of society? This is what should seize everybody's mind. How can I leverage technology for communication purposes, for marketing purposes, for discussion of ideas and crystallization of those ideas into innovations? And how do we use technology for scaling and replicating and increasing the footprint of its usage? and there are huge opportunities. So people should know at least how to use technology more than how to develop technology. And once they know how to use it, multiple applications are possible. Actually, iPhone is a simple device, but look at the number of applications which have come on it, and as a result of which, the usage of iPhone has gone up. So application is user dependent, and users define how things can be developed. So I think there is a great opportunity if everybody puts their mind how they can contribute in their own little way, using technology and contributing to society and becoming part of co-win groups and other groups in their own communities.
Right, sir. So, I mean, that is really encouraging, and we are trying our level best to kind of, from our own understanding. And again, it's a fantastic example of diverse people coming in together for one single cause. And I think the need of the hour is all of us coming together to contributing to the economy of the country. I think it has never happened in our lifetime. I think probably all of us, none of us have rather seen such a situation. So wherein every individual is carrying a responsibility of taking a little bit of economic development of the country. So, we touched upon various aspects of challenges and innovation. So in the end, if you have to advise, so say three classes of people: individuals, entrepreneurs, and employees of the country, what is those top 2 3 things that everybody should do so that they are contributing towards the economy? What kind of innovation or what kind of steps they should take, these three classes of people? What is that you would suggest at the end of it, sir?
So as employees of organizations, I think all the employees should feel a need to integrate themselves with the initiatives that the company is taking. Many companies are taking initiatives in some manner or the other. They are either simple thing is portion of their salary being given back to the economy. So that's one part. But the other is they are also organizing self-help groups. They are seeing how to better operate in this current economy with innovation, how to use the workplace, work from home capabilities. So the employees have an obligation to be able to step up. I mean, for example, if you are saving 2 hours of your commute in the morning and 2 hours of your commute in the evening, are you saying that I'm going to relax now for those 2 hours, or can you give those 2 hours back to your company in a much bigger way, and thereby increase the productivity of your company in whatever area that you are involved in? This is something that everybody should think and say, hey, this is my way of contributing. I'm going to contribute this 4 extra hours, which I have saved in my commute to my office, and give it back and achieve something more. So very simple example, but it's a non-trivial example. If everybody does that, imagine that instead of having an 8-hour productivity, you suddenly have a 10-hour productivity or a 12-hour productivity from people who can operate from home. The second is the employees should become part of local community help groups so that they can contribute with their capabilities and their competencies. As a startup, I would advise that this is your opportunity to think and rethink and reimagine a new world post-COVID or even during COVID. Okay, and see how your innovation can bring greater. See, many of our startups, they want to become unicorns, but suddenly you realize in such a situation, being a unicorn is of no big deal. What you want is you want to be sustainable, you want to be able to provide service to the community, and you need to make profits. Yes, no, there's no question about not wanting to make profits, but how much profits do you want to make? And in such a circumstance, how do you use it and how do you leverage it? Because if the economy goes, it's not the question of shareholder price. The stock price goes down in such a situation. So the stock price doesn't seem to have any meaning at that time. But however, your ability to contribute to the economy and to keep sustainable jobs is what will count. So startups have an opportunity to innovate, and they should continue that. As individuals, we need first we need to keep our morale up. It is very important to keep our morale up, to be still very confident. The I can attitude should be there with everyone, and then they become part of how they can help in communities, their own society. How can they do the? I mean, you don't have to go very far away. Look at your own society. Look at the surroundings of your own society, and see how you can help in mitigating such a crisis and be able to pull people out of the economic slump that will be there. So with
All
all of
right.
this, I'm sure it will be positive.
All right, fantastic, sir. So thank you so much for joining us today. And I think this is the brightest side that we have seen today. And I think all of us have responsibility. And I think government and organizations like Atal Tinkering Lab and Niti Aayog and AIM, for example, are out there to help every individual, every startup, and every Indian, so to say, to grow and contribute to this economy. So I think all of us together can, I can, you can, we can, and India can, as we say. I think we will come out of this situation as winners and probably a better nation. And I think guidance like you will always stand by all of us. I think people can seek help, correct help, and get guidance. So thank you so much for joining us today. And we shall keep our morals high and come out of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And please feel free to write to me anytime. Like I said, my email ID is r.ramanan@gov.in. And of course, I'm also on Twitter handles and all of that stuff. So
yes,
thank you
so
so
I
much.
advise everybody to please follow sir and get in touch if you need any help. All right, we'll see you soon. Thank you, sir.